Hi, my name is Nijay Gupta. I serve as professor of New Testament at Northern Seminary in Chicago.
Dr. Nijay Gupta. Nijay, always good to see you. Thank you for being with us today on Exegetically Speaking.
My pleasure. If I make it to like 5 or 6 times, I expect to get like a bathrobe or something
Oh,
with.
listen, have you gotten any cup yet? Have we given you a mug?
I got the mug. I use the mug.
You
I use
got
the
the
mug.
mug. It's. I
Yeah,
love the mug.
it's a great mug.
it is a great mug, and it holds 12 ounces of coffee, which is about as much as my Keurig would make. So
I
I
have
love
one.
it.
I have one criticism though. It should be called exegetically sipping
Exegetically
the mug.
sipping. Okay. Hey, that's we'll make that change next time when we print those things. No, it is much in demand, almost as in demand as the early Christology mug, but
Yeah,
almost as much, but not quite. So, at any rate, yeah, thanks. You've been with us before, and
yeah.
one of my favorite podcasts that we've done is called the pre-incarnate bling and of Christ, and it focuses in upon Philippians 2, verses 6 to 11. But today we're going to look at the book of Ephesians, chapter 2, which is a wonderful chapter, and then verses 4 to 10. I mean, there's so much there, Nietzsche. How do you focus
Yeah.
in on just one thing?
Yeah, you can't. But I just want to. I guess I just want to shine a light on how beautiful this writing is. And David, I know this is a short episode, but I got to tell you, I've changed my mind on Ephesians. I used to be convinced that all of Paul's letters are situation driven in terms of the audience. And I've come to change my mind on Ephesians, and I really do feel like this is unique. And in a sense, it's kind of Paul's greatest hits. He's in prison and he may not be dying, but he's thinking about his life as we all do when we're sick or when we're, in a situation of gravity. And he's thinking about his life. And I love Ephesians chapter 2 because he's thinking about if I could just preach one more sermon. If
Wow.
God would give me the grace to get out of prison and preach one more sermon, I'm kind of thinking of a Billy Graham kind of moment here. What would he want to say? And you know what's beautiful about Ephesians 2, 4 through 10, and if you go into chapter 3, which we're not going to, he keeps reflecting on his own story, is just the lavishness of God's grace, just the beauty and the wealth of God's grace. So, Ephesians 2 is kind of a before and after. So the first part of Ephesians 2 is this is what you were before, dominated by the ruler, the authority of the air, and kind of beholden to the sons of disobedience, driven by the flesh and such wicked thoughts. And then verse 4, ha de theos, but God. But God. I just imagine Paul in that cell, in that prison cell, right? Freezing cold or burning hot. I don't know what it was like. Stuffy. He hasn't eaten in days. And he's just thinking, but God, plusios, on, en, ele, rich in mercy. Throughout the whole of Ephesians, but in this passage, he uses over the top language. Plusios, rich. And then he goes into, on account of the Pauline agapein, the great love with which he loved us. It's not just the love, it's the great love. And then he goes on, if you go towards the end here, the huperbolon, this is verse 7, the huperbolon plutos.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
I call this the incomparable wealth of his grace in
That's a good translation of that.
Christotati, in kindness. Right? Sometimes, David, I think we sometimes have this view that God has to do things. Like when I have to pick up my kids from a sports practice,
Right,
when
right.
I have to, stay home with them when they're sick, and there are those begrudging moments. But we don't love our kids because we have to. We love our kids because we love them, right? We take
Right.
care of them because we love them. And what we learn from Ephesians 2 is Paul sitting in prison thinking about his last sermon is just lavishness. Imagine you go to the grocery store and, you go there just to buy toothpaste or whatever it is, a loaf of bread. And on your way out, the cashier just says, hey, we got some free stuff we're giving away. Okay, fine. And they give you jam. And then, okay, fine. And then they give you peanut butter. I say, wait, stay there. They give you a gallon of milk. They give you chocolate. And they just keep going
Keep
and
going.
going. And you needed one thing. And then plusios, Plutos, Hyperbalon, Christotati, Charis, right? It is amazing. This is what is the last things that are going through Paul's mind as he's wondering if today may be my last day or this week may be my last week. And if he could just get the message out. Here's what I wonder, David. Maybe Paul sent out 10 almost identical letters and he maybe tweaked them a little bit. This one to Ephesians and another one to Colossae, another one to Rome. We only have this one, let's say. Mm-hmm. And what he wants to talk about is the extravagance. Let me just say one more thing. I know we got to wrap up. I want to look at verse 5. Verse 5 is the sweet spot. We were dead in our transgressions, but sunezoa poiesin, he made us alive, and people forget the sun, together with the resurrected Christ.
Yes, yes.
By grace you're saved.
That's
he just
great.
blurts out, by grace you're saved.
Yep.
And then sunageron, he raised us up. But he didn't just raise us up. He raised us up together with Christ.
Yep.
By sunakathisen, he doesn't just give us a seat. He gives us a seat together with Christ.
Right, right.
Those suns, I think, get ignored. Right? Sun. These suns mean we have full participation in all the benefits of Christ. He doesn't just give us a bunch of stuff at the grocery store. He gives us ownership to the whole store. That's amazing.
Gives us the
That's
whole
what I love
store.
about this passage.
He gives the whole store.
The whole store.
That is a fabulous reading, Nijay, about this text. And I'm fascinated by your idea that, Paul is maybe writing more of a universal kind of thing here. He's looking at toward the end of his life. He's thinking about the possibility of that, and he's got one more sermon in him, and he's just got to say it, and he's got to preach it, and he goes out like that. Fascinating stuff.
All of Ephesians is kind of Paul's greatest hits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He talks about the Gentiles. He talks about before and after. He talks about grace and justification.
Yeah.
These are his greatest hits, and I feel like this is the center of those greatest hits.
Fantastic. Dr. Nijay Gupta, thanks for being with us today on Exegetically Speaking. What a great conversation. I hope you agree. Now, there's only 168 hours until the next podcast drops, so watch for it. Subscribe to this podcast, rate us today. If you want to study biblical languages, you need to consider Wheaton College. They have the best program in the country, bar none. Go to wheaton.edu, look for modern and classical languages. Get started today. Come on, you know you want to. Thanks for those who make this podcast possible. John Lansma is our Wheaton-based director, Ian Rosine, and Rebecca Larson. Thanks to Phil Kegi for our music. Until next time, thanks for listening.